adjustment costs. For example, are we prepared to compensate for those who are probably suffering from the integration? And have we also developed the skills that, for example, will facilitate things that you're trying to discuss here in terms of preparatory stage? Thank you.
SMEs are very important in the East African region, and they help with economic trade. And they also help in employing many people, so they're very important in the East African. We'll be looking at challenges of ICT for trade in East Africa. Like I said, ICT is really an enabler, but it still has some challenges that it faces, and especially that SMEs face. And also, we'll be looking at ICT in trade facilitation agencies, and also use of ICT and poverty reduction in East African region. So benefits of ICT for SMEs. ICT is very important, and ICT is basically the convergence or the meeting of technologies. It's basically, when we talk about ICT, we are talking about computers, we are talking about mobile phones, how are companies, how are the SMEs using that ICT. So we saw that the SMEs are able to benefit by easy communication between suppliers and customers, leading to more sales. And of course, when communication becomes easier, then it's easy for the business people to communicate with each other. And also, lower cost of overheads leading to poverty alleviation. When we have ICT, that means when the business people do not need to move from one place to another, because we have information systems that actually help people, the business people, to be able to see what is happening in one country, what is available, what can we be able to buy. So that means we have low cost of overheads. You don't need to travel from one place to another. And then we have travel, and also users access data from anywhere, leading to more sales.
One of the main key challenges SMEs face is lack of expertise. So either they are too small to actually invest their resources in creating capacities that would help them capitalize on the available capabilities of ICT and the efficiencies and benefits ICT would offer. And this then has a direct impact on how then they participate or would participate in a trade environment in the EAC that is fully automated. So that's a big challenge, particularly for small businesses. Low internet connection, that's quite a critical area. In urban areas where most of the SMEs are concentrated because of easy access to their markets, issue of connectivity has improved over the years. So there's a lot of improvement on that. But there still remain a lot of challenges, particularly for SMEs that operate either in rural or semi-rural settings. So if you look at some of the border crossings that will have also a large number of informal or cross-border traders, you'd find that the border settings in the region, by and large, are either rural or semi-rural setups. So a huge challenge of interconnection in those areas then would definitely impact those SMEs that are operating within that environment. Power supply, energy, that's quite a big problem as well. So how many SMEs, particularly in semi-rural or rural settings, are able to access power and therefore operate in areas where they are familiar with, territories they are familiar with, and are able to access those markets and effectively operate, particularly if it comes to them trading across borders. Then, of course, issues of security. Security is also related to lack of expertise. So here we are looking at areas whereby if I'm a small business and I've invested in ICT, then what is the guarantee that this particular facility is safe from either destruction or loss of information or data? So quite a tricky area for many small businesses as well. Now, these are the kind of challenges SMEs face, particularly when we are moving towards a region that we would want to have a fully automated trade environment, where all trade transactions, trade activities, information and communication is done in a fully digitized or digital way. So how will these SMEs be able to operate within this kind of framework? But we need to look at what would be the benefits of an SME that actually would be relying on ICT and operating within a fully automated trade environment. So I'll discuss more about the automated trade environment after I highlight some of the strengths and weaknesses that an SME would be facing within this environment. So one of the strengths is access to information from any area, irrespective of where the person is operating from. So if the entire trade platform in the region is digitized, then a small business would operate from where they are. So less investment for them in terms of ICT or putting more money in terms of actually getting that expertise, that easiness of access. And then easy communication with their suppliers and customers as well. So that comes up as a hub that would help SMEs actually profit. So how do we come up with trade systems that actually connect suppliers, markets, traders, trade agencies in a way that actually information is available to everyone? Information can be free, but is affordable. That a small business in Kigali can actually compete with a big business in Nairobi in the same market, rather than the big business in Nairobi dominating the entire business. And as the first presenter said, SMEs are key towards growth, whether of trade or economics in the region. So the weakness that we would have to address in this particular environment is, how do I address the issue of connectivity, particularly in some areas, particularly rural areas or semi-rural areas, also in some urban areas. Energy infrastructure, so access to power or to electricity or whatever form of power that should be there, and the kind of technical skills required to actually optimize and leverage fully on ICT. So just to focus then on the idea that if an SME has to operate in a fully digitized environment, an ICT environment that we would envision, what would be the key focus in this environment? So we would want an environment where, first of all, the trade agencies that exist, and there's so many of them, I have a few statistics I'll show you, the processes of trading are simplified. So simple processes, simple procedures, the information required from a trader is much more simplified. It creates an easy way, even for an informal trader, to participate in a more formalized way of trading, rather than the usual informal trade we are used to, which seems to sound more as illegal trade, where somebody is illegally crossing from one border to the other side of the border. Development of harmonized processes and procedures. So we are looking at 6 countries in the region. So how harmonized are the processes within these 6 countries? So how can we get into ways of harmonizing processes, therefore information that is required processes that are required are then shared equally and can be used across borders, particularly in a setting where if everything is digitized, then everything gets harmonized. And then finally, standardization. How then do we have standards or systems that actually comply with international standards, whether they are WCO standards, WTO standards in terms of information sharing, kind of information structures? Standards that are actually international. So how do we benchmark systems that are developed within our region to actually supersede or match best practice globally? and do it in a way that actually we do not limit or we do not disadvantage small and medium-sized or also informal businesses. So I think that's one of the major key challenges that we have in our region. So if we have a scenario whereby we have fully implemented a digitized environment, the impact of that would be some of this that I've highlighted here. There could be more, but the key ones would be first, time and cost. So efficiency created. A lot of time is spent in terms of the documentation and processing of information that is needed, for example, for goods to move within the region, so from one point to another. So how that information is presented and how it is delivered. So looking at systems on how information is generated, information is transmitted, and information is stored in a way that creates efficiency. So if you're able to cut down the amount of time spent, the amount of cost spent by businesses investing in complying with regulations and rules that are really very, very manual in their requirements or creates a lot of duplication, then we won't be able to cut down on costs. So ICT can help us achieve that. Reduction in cost and time. Huge efficiencies that can be gained. Just to give you an example, when the Asian countries implemented an environment where they integrated some of their systems within the ASEAN region, and using, for example, the EDI standards, just by automating trade procedures and reengineering their processes, they cut down by almost 85% of the time required by clearing agents to submit information. That 85% reduction in time translated to almost 65% reduction in transaction costs. So those are the kinds of savings you'd be looking at. So it's huge saving. You can imagine if an SME is operating in this kind of environment, it helps the SME save a lot on their costs. Issues of transparency and accountability. If you do not have automated systems, one thing that thrives basically is an environment where there is no transparency. So for example, a clear good example is in an environment where there's a lot of lack of clarity in terms of procedures and processes and how information moves from one place to another, and particularly if it is manual movement of information files. An example of a good clearing agent is an agent who has good networks with the trade agencies. So he knows who is who in that particular agency. So a small startup clearing and forwarding business would not succeed in that environment. Now, in an automated environment, a good clearing agent is not one who has good networks, but one who knows how to comply with standards, one who knows what is required to submit as the necessary information. Because the system then creates equality, first in, first out. So it creates a level playing ground for everyone, and SMEs can thrive in that. Better coordination and integration or cooperation. So ICT can help this. So more of regional integration coming in because of ICT creating that environment. Reliability and predictability. So if we have automated systems, how would an SME rely on that? It would be able to plan its business, predict. So for example, you can manage your inventories because you would know if my consignment is going to arrive in Kigali today, it will be cleared in a day, for example. So you're able to plan and predict how your business performs. This still results in efficiency and time savings and cost savings. And then finally, knowledge and information sharing. Our region is one of the weakest when it comes to issues of how we share and how we distribute information and therefore generate knowledge. So how can we have information that is integrated and available to everyone, that then this information helps people to actually form part of this impact on ICT we are saying for small businesses in particular. So one of the key ways of doing this, and the vision would be, and some of the interventions are already taking place, is actually the establishment of a regional single window. Now, a regional single window would be basically a web of systems, interconnected, interrelated, and interdependent within the region that combines national single window platforms, and national single window platforms already integrate all the agencies within themselves and creates a single unified platform where automation of information and automation of flow of and submission of information is done digitally. Now, to support that environment, and the only way an SME would benefit is if the single window regional environment is supported by trade portals. So having portals that are set up that have trade information, issues to do with requirements, regulations. I'm a trader in Kigali or in Bujumbura. How can I access a Kenyan market? What are the requirements, for example, in Kenya? What would be the standards required for my cargo to reach Kenya, for example, or to go outside the region? And then have also supporting that transport portals or transport observatories that then actually help people know how the corridors are performing. We have 3 corridors in our region. So how would we get the information that would help us harness these corridors so traders can make decisions on which is the most effective corridor to use? If I was in Kampala, which is the best corridor that I could use? Have that information in a digital format that is easy for somebody to make those decisions. And finally, have, which is more ambitious, market observatories. Market observatories that would help small businesses that cannot invest in research and acquisition of information in terms of how markets are developing or growing within the region. So if we combined all this, we would create a very good ambience and environment for SMEs to thrive and actually to profit from trade. And this translates automatically to one of the key discussions we are having, and that is if SMEs grow, then SMEs have an impact on reduction on poverty.
Medium-sized businesses barely use the software available. So I think there really is a need for skills development, even at the most rudimentary level, to get uptake with the technology. So that's one thing which I really think we should think about. We have to invest in teaching people basic skills in using ICT for business. Otherwise, the uptake will remain very low. The second issue I want to bring is up, which I thought was very thought-provoking, is the massive incentive from the ASEAN region. Can you imagine, for small businesses, their margins are very small as well. The marketing skills are weak, so the margins, survival is a big problem. 85% reduction in time of processing papers is incredible. It could make more of them survive than is the case now, because many of them don't survive because they can't pay rent on time, because the papers are still stuck, being processed, etc. So if we can link up training in basic ICT skills for using for business with this migration process, then I think there'd be more uptake.
I'd like to emphasize on the impact of using ICT in fighting against the corruption in trade. By giving example for Burundi, when the National Committee for Elimination of the NTBs used this way by working with the drivers of lorries, and they send directly the short messages to this national committee when there is an obstacle they see on the road concerning the NTBs. Second, I liked your saying that there is a problem of access to internet connection in rural areas and for small and medium enterprises. That is a reality everyone knows. It is not worth to give some examples. But mind the recommendation to TMA to focus on funding this area, and obviously trademark fund where is the proposal, where is the when there is a project, is also to encourage or to recommend these small and medium enterprises to draft projects on this sense.
There seems to be a very big gap in the presentation that is sort of like the elephant in the room. A lot of the people in this room, if I look around, are very familiar. We've got OBR, we've got Theo working on integrated border management, we've got Tanzania Chambers of Commerce working on an NTB monitoring system. These are all investments that are ongoing in terms of ICT infrastructure in the region, and they're already producing tangible benefits. We heard yesterday in the morning that URA managed to, they're projecting savings of about $56 million per year from modernizing their customs management system and the single window. In Rwanda, we have a similar success story. Burundi has a very good example of BR of how they actually use the cost savings to fund a clinic, for example, which helps their citizens. What would have been interesting to beef up this paper would have been to look at now that the fact we have achieved this savings, what are the proposed next steps, either a short-term or medium-term projects or interventions that TMA or other development partners can take and promote in the region so that these benefits can now affect the poverty angle. My third and very quick comment is to look at IT technology from the enabling point of view as an SME. We are looking at only how it helps businesses, but we have failed to bring out in this paper that ICT itself could be a product. I give you a quick example. In this whole symposium, we have the problem of data. No one understands who the poor are. We don't have the information. It is not available. Household surveys take too long. They are very expensive. Why can't there be an SME who makes it their business to provide that and collect this data using the technology we have? Mobile money is available. People have mobile phones. Why can't we use it for data collections? So these are also some of the thought-provoking, thinking out of the box ideas that we need to encourage in this region.
I want to raise just to make two comments. One is to talk about awareness. There's a colleague there who mentioned it, and I fully agree with him, because most of the biggest problem we are facing is actually the expertise. As you know, many traders are not only ICT illiterate, but they are only illiterate. Even reading or writing their names is a problem. So for those ones, and they are the majority, those ones to think of using the new technologies is asking them to pay somebody to do it and to do what they do not understand, while they have their way of operating that has been successful according to their own assessment. So there is a problem that might be solved as we go along, when the new traders would be intellectuals, maybe the sons of the current traders, ordinary traders. A wholesaler in industrial area really doesn't need ICT, but his way of doing business is efficient according to him. But of course, and that brings me to the second issue. Many people have talked about data disconnection. I mean, data that are generated by East African